What's going on, everybody? The original Mako back with some more Gunfire Reborn content, and today we had some patch notes that came out and some pretty important changes in them, so I felt like it was important to go over them. I know in the last video I posted, I said there were only going to be 2 more videos on the channel for the rest of the year, and it was going to be my top 5 videos for video games and for top 5 anime, but things happen. I didn't know when this update was coming, but it came today. So we are going to get into it and talk about it. Regular update on December 22nd. Embark on the Boundless Dream. The Boundless Dream is a new game type, which is essentially just endless mode with no timer. Enemies become stronger increasingly. Their damage resistance will continue to increase. Recycling scrolls and goblets provide certain bonuses. Goblets still have a maximum amount that you can get. However, scrolls do not have a maximum amount that you can get. So I believe you can crank those bad boys out, which is pretty cool. But everything else is pretty much the same. It's just endless mode, but with no timer for you to worry about. So pretty cool there. The Endless Journey has been changed to a different mode, so if you still want the timer, you can still play with the timer. It's just a different area. So, Spiritual Link. Removed the double powder Spiritual Link, which was the one that, like, increased, or your weapon damage had a chance to trigger twice, I believe. I think. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway. The new one is Refined Powder, which gives you plus 5. I'm assuming this means explosion damage. So plus 5% explosion damage for every 1 meter of explosion AoE that you have. So that's pretty good if you have decent AoE rolling. So that's kind of cool. Added some new random routes of vaults and stages in the Longling Tomb, Desert, and the Hyperbian Yokel. Next up, some spiritual blessing adjustments. These are kind of fucking crazy, some of these. So this is the big meat, other than, endless mode being its own thing now. This is the big meat of this update. So let's talk about them. Lightning Messenger. I'm not much of a Tiger player, but let's talk about it. Everything is the exact same, except it increases your weapon damage and skill damage by 200% instead of 100% against enemies that are affected by shock. So, obviously, I mean, that's just a fucking massive buff. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just doubling the damage you do to enemies affected by shock. There's nothing to really talk about there. Smog-bound Zone. The old one, you had plus 40% smoke grenade range, increased duration, and increased damage resistance when you or a teammate were in that area. The new one, you still get the effective range bonus and the duration bonus, and you still get damage resistance when you are in the smoke grenade area. However, you now also get increased elemental damage taken and increased elemental effect chance when enemies are standing in your smoke grenade. So, once again, everything's the same, but you now have this as an additional buff. So, a massive, massive buff to Smog-bound Zone as well, which grenade builds on the cat are pretty fun in general, so this is a pretty huge update here. Elemental Maestro, another cat buff. The old one was you would get a buff for 4 seconds every 10 seconds that gives you 100% elemental damage and guarantees elemental effects with the buff, which basically means for 40% of your run, you get guaranteed elemental effects and a plus 100% elemental effect chance. The new one is elemental damage won't get affected by the defense type. So if you're using fire damage on a shield, not going to matter. And you get plus 60% total damage if the enemy has 2 types of elemental effects on them, and 90% if the enemy has 3. So if you run this with Painkiller, this is just a massive buff, because the old one was you get 100% elemental damage for 40% of your run. With Painkiller, you're basically going to have 90%, Painkiller, you're basically going to have 90% for the entire run instead of just 40% of your run. So it's a little less max damage, but way, way, way more total damage if you're running it with Painkiller. And if you're not running it with Painkiller, then it's a little bit more iffy, but still a 60% buff if the enemy has 2 elemental effects is still pretty fucking good. Next up, Flame Dance. The old one was you would get 30% weapon damage and 5% enemy damage taken when you burn an enemy up to 10 stacks. The new one is increased damage, not weapon damage, damage, and increased enemy damage taken when you inflict burn effect up to 10 stacks. So this can now affect your E as well. So it doesn't just affect weapons, it can affect your E, which is obviously insane when you are on the Tiger or the Fox, because the Fox's E is already insane. So any extra buffs to it are pretty cool. Next up, we have energy draining. The old version was after casting Spiritual Flame, you enter burnout state, where you get increased weapon damage, attack speed, movement speed, and you recover 2 energy when you do burning effects. But you also consume 5 energy per second. Energy consumption and bonus effect increases by 100% for every 5 seconds that you are in this state, and that can stack up to 5 times. It ends when you recast Spiritual Flame or you run out of energy. The new one is you recover 2 energy when inflicting burning effect, and after casting your E, you enter the burnout state. You get plus 300% weapon damage, so huge increase to weapon damage. Double the amount of attack speed, double the amount of movement speed, and you still consume 5 energy per second, and you have plus 100% energy consumption. Plus 50% bonus effect for every 5 seconds that you're in. It can only stack up to 4 times, though, and it also ends when recasting Spiritual Flame or when your energy runs out. I'm going to be honest. In general, I don't really use energy draining very often at all. I wasn't a big fan of it, and I'm still probably not going to use it because it's more based around weapon damage, and I don't... If I'm playing the Fox and I'm doing a weapon damage build, fucking sue me. I like that's not me. You should probably investigate if I'm okay. So this doesn't mean much to me. I think it is in general a good update. If you were using this, I think I would consider this a buff, but I'm just never gonna use this. So Raging Inferno, something I absolutely would use before. Increase base damage of your Spiritual Flame for every enemy hit by it. You can go up to 30 stacks, but you lose 10 stacks if you miss, and you recover 1 energy for every 2 meters that you move. The new one is 45% base damage of Spiritual Flame for hitting 1 enemy with your Spiritual Flame, which consumed, as long as you used one that consumed more than 30 energy. This can go up to 10 stacks as well, and it lasts for 90 seconds. So it doesn't last forever. It lasts for 90 seconds, but as long as you're hitting something every 90 seconds, I'm assuming it refreshes. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming it refreshes. And this is, once again, just a massive buff because you can't lose stacks. You just lose stacks over time, and you can get up to a 450% base damage buff on your Spiritual Flame instead of... sorry, not 450. Oh, wait. Oh, this adds up to be the same, doesn't it? Oh, it's the same maximum amount of stacks. Okay, interesting. Good math. We're thinking through this together. So you get the same amount of maximum damage, but you can get it a lot faster. Well, actually, this one's actually really interesting. This one's like, I don't think this is a buff or a nerf. It's just kind of a change. I'd have to use this to really see if it makes a big difference. I don't know. I feel like you might be able to get to max stacks faster here. But you also, assuming you're not missing. Interesting. I'd have to play with this one to see how it is. I don't know if that's really a buff or a nerf. It kind of just seems like a move, honestly. Next up, we have Mecha Crash. The old one. You deal extra damage that is equivalent to your weapon damage, and you have minus 1 second cooldown when reloading, and then plus 300% total damage of your next drop after casting it 2 times. The new one is you get plus 50% total damage of your drop, and the damage of the next 3 pistol shots after using the drop will be stored and dealt in the next drop, and then minus half a second cooldown for every enemy hit by the pistol. This adds a little more ways you can do the pistol build on Nana, which is pretty cool. I think her pistol build is a ton of fun, so I think this is a fine change. I wasn't using Mecha Crash very often anyway, but if I'm doing a pistol build now, it definitely might be worth it. Next up, we have Sword Mastery for the bunny. The old one, you get plus 50% rate of fire when you're using your E, your swords, and you can stack Blade Heart even when your E is on cooldown. Now, you get plus 50% rate of fire while using your E, and you get plus 1 extra stack of Blade Heart, and it can go up to 3 stacks. For your next swords out, for every 2 stacks of Blade Heart you obtained while you were using your E. I'm assuming is what that means. So if you can get 6 stacks while you're using your E, then you'll get an extra 3, or if you can get 6 swords out, 6 stacks of Blade Heart while using your E, you'll get an extra 3 stacks, which is obviously really good. This is just a massive buff to Sword Mastery. Makes the bunny's E build a little bit better. Next up, we have Thorny Bloom. The old one. For every Fatal Bloom you gain, you get plus 40% Fatal Bloom base damage for 30 seconds up to 30 stacks, and you deal 1 more skill damage to the enemy when the mark of Fatal Bloom vanishes. So your Fatal Bloom massive nuke at the end deals damage twice. The new one is you get plus 160 base damage of your Fatal Bloom for each use of it for up to 30 seconds. Goes up to 10 stacks. When the mark disappears, Fatal Bloom will strike the enemy twice again, and plus 100% total damage of these 2 strikes every time the enemy received damage from flying swords while being marked. Look, if you want to see some fat, juicy numbers, then this is what you want to see right here. Fatal Bloom could go ballistic. Now, the majority of enemies aren't going to live to see the Thorny Bloom go off, but for bosses or elites or things that do have enough health to see that go crazy, these numbers could be absolutely ridiculous. So definitely a buff for Thorny Bloom. A spiritual blessing that was removed. One Dog Army. 07 for One Dog Army. Rest in peace. You absolutely hate to see it. One Dog Army was kind of gas. So tough to see that one go. But they added a new one, which is now Combat Elite. Which, its effect, you will no longer suffer movement speed reduction from special ammo weapons, and you have plus 25% total explosion damage when you're dual wielding for every meter of explosion AoE. More explosive buffs. You have minus half a second duration of dual wield for every explosion damage dealt, which means you can basically just stack your dual wields forever. And when you're not dual wielding, you have minus 3 second cooldown of dual wield for every reload or use of your grenade. So, explosive build, go boom. Dual wield explosive build, go boom. Here is what this is. So, that's kind of cool. Still sucks to see One Dog Army go, but, it is what it is. So that's most of the changes. That's all of the changes to the spiritual blessings, which is, like I said, the meat of the update, besides endless mode being its own thing. A couple other small things. The Revealer has a new reloading animation. Uwu is adjusted to be easier. Shield cap bonus is reduced by half, and there's going to be less spawning of bombers. There's going to be more time in between when bombers spawn. So that's pretty cool. A couple of actually somewhat interesting new UI additions. They added avatars and emotes. You can change your avatar the same place you change your border, which is cool. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's kind of cool. And then emotes, which you can use in multiplayer. I don't play multiplayer, so there's no need. That doesn't matter for me. Damage that exceeds 1 billion will be displayed in abbreviated form, so you can now see damage that goes over 1 billion, which is pretty cool as well. And then adding a feature to recycle occult scrolls in the team information interface and backpack interface, so you can recycle stuff straight from your inventory. And then optimized the rescue interaction. The rescue function will now automatically activate upon button release without the need for a long press. Those words mean nothing to me. So some other adjustments in there, as well as added the feature to add Steam friends in game. So yeah, a couple of cool things there, but the big meat of it is all the changes to the spiritual blessings. As always, I'm not going to go through each bug fix. However, if you would like to look and see if there's a certain thing that has been fixed, feel free to pause the video now and take a look right there. See if they fixed your bug. I'm interested to see if they have the hedgehog on here, but I don't think they do. I doubt that's ever going to get fixed because, fuck it. But there it is. A lot of very interesting changes. I'm excited to try out these new spiritual blessings as well as the new mode, which is an actual endless mode. So a lot of really exciting things here. And yeah, hopefully you guys are excited to try it as well. But thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts on this new patch down below. Hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully you're all staying safe and healthy during this holiday season. As always, I love each and every one of your faces, and I'll catch you all in the next video.